Yeah, let's move on to the next one here. And this one, this is maybe just more personally one of my pet peeves, but it's too early mock drafts. And I
No,
think
I'm
that
with you on this.
this is one that I think we can go back in the Titans media space all the way to November when people were starting to put out
Okay.
mock drafts as well. Because
It's the worst when your team sucks, right? Because everybody wants to just jump to the next season. But yes.
it does. But it really is. I think that the perfect time to start coming out with mock drafts is post combine, because that's when you start to really get to this point where you start to see some teams leak things to credible sources. And that's where you start to see these draft boards come really out into the public space. Right now, I think the biggest one right now is with JJ McCarthy and people kind of speculating that he's going to be a top 10 pick. Personally, I agree with you, Sam, and what these NFL executives do. They have their grades. It's just when they start to leak things, which could be true or false, is when you start to get into this. And that's post combine, I think. And I don't think JJ McCarthy is a top 10, maybe even a top 20 pick in this draft. However, that's what you're starting to see in these really okay. In these mock
I'm
drafts.
drinking the Kool-Aid.
Wow. Okay. I mean,
not that he should be, to be clear. Not that he should be, that he will be.
I would be surprised about that, but that's why I think that these mock drafts, before you really get a full view of these guys into the full media space, that it's really not it's not worthwhile. Because in the Titans space right now, when we have these mock drafts coming out, I think I want to say I said this, I made this claim like pre-week 18, maybe week 17, that we are so early into the draft season that we're going to escalate this to, well, could the Titans, if Jaden Daniels was there, consider a quarterback? And we're already like, I thought this was going to be something post combine. We are already seeing a lot of accounts be like, could the Titans even consider a quarterback at 7? And it's just something that makes me want to bash my head into a wall every single time, because it's just like we're now in, we've jumped the shark on it, and now we're kind of in limbo. And like you said earlier,
and it's only February.
It's only February. We don't even know where free agents are going to go, which totally change how a mock draft looks. So I think that's why doing mock drafts too early is a fun exercise, but it's not something to build everything around.
Yeah, I mean, I will agree. November is crazy. We don't know the draft order. Like, as a point one of a mock draft is, what is the order in which teams are selecting players? And if we don't know that, we cannot pick a mock draft. I've done one mock draft this offseason. I did one post combine. I think they're more, it was a team specific 7-round mock.
We actually brought this up because we hate you specifically, Sam. We read your mock and we said you're a moron.
I would push back on the idea that it has to be post combine specifically, because I do think it just depends on what you're taking mock drafts for, right?
Just don't take it so seriously in January.
Right. And I think, like, my initial Titans mock draft is, I think, a good example for Titans fans about some of the needs that they could potentially target. It's not necessarily tied to this player specifically or that player specifically. It's like, hey, this guy seems like a good fit, and this could be the position groups that they target in certain levels of the draft based on need, draft position, the overall class, etc. But as you've mentioned, so much is subject to change, where, like, and I had to qualify my mock draft by saying this, where I had the Titans taking Malik Neighbors at number 7. If the Titans were to sign a wide receiver, a premium wide receiver at that, they are immediately out of every wide receiver conversation at number 7 possible in my eyes. And so these things develop over the course of the offseason, and I think they can be helpful tools to see how things are adapting and changing for your favorite team or for the league in general. But yeah, there aren't really a ton of things that change week to week, day to day until post combine and you get closer to the draft. So, if somebody's doing on their mock draft 4.0 already, my question for them would be,
relax.
What is the difference between 4.0 and 1.0?
What have you learned?
What has changed in the last 4 weeks that you have shifted your points drastically? So.
Here's the big picture pet peeve for me that is this, but it's bigger than just the whole mock draft thing. It is the honesty of people regarding the draft this time of year. I see constantly in January and February, folks very clearly talking about players and things they just haven't done their due diligence on yet. And that's fine. My number one thing is let me clarify. It is fine if you, like, for folks like Sam and JT and I, if it is January 20th and I don't know about a guy that's a 3rd round cornerback, I'm going to tell you, I don't know about that guy yet. I'm going to get to him. And that doesn't mean I'm not a source on the draft that you can trust. Give me a month or two and I'll be able to tell you about these guys, and I will be a valuable resource works for you. But right now, I'm not going to sit here and pretend to you that I can do a 7-round mock draft where rounds 3 through 7, I'm making a super informed decision for the Titans in my mock draft, because I'm sitting here looking at this list of guys that are available and I don't know them just like you don't know them. And so like that's why I've put out a mock draft on Twitter a couple of times. I tend to do like, let's do a 3-round mock draft. Let's do a 5-round mock draft. Sam, I saw yours from the post Senior Bowl, and it seemed like yours was very much Senior Bowl informed. You had a lot of Senior Bowl guys in there. That's great. That's fine. It's a great tool for folks to start to learn about guys that you have started to learn about, and we kind of slot them in, and then the picture becomes more clear later on. But I wish folks in our line of business would be more forthfront with their fans, their followers. Like, here's what I know so far. Here's what I don't. I'm sorry that it's February 15th and I don't know a ton about Jerzon Newton yet. Yes, he's a first-round prospect, but he's a defensive lineman, and the Titans aren't super in the first-round defensive lineman market, so I haven't gotten to him yet. I'm sorry. I will let you know when I have, and I'm not going to go Google Dane Brugler's rundown on Jerzon Newton and then parrot it as my own thing like I know anything about this guy.
Yeah, it's super. I think that's not where I thought you were going when you were talking about like being forthcoming and honest at this time of year. But I do think there's a lot to that of, and I've had to do this on multiple occasions, right? I'm live on the radio. I'm asked about, how do you feel about so-and-so, this specific draft prospect? And it's like, to be honest, I didn't look at him for a second at the Senior Bowl. It's like, I had my eyes a lot of places.
There were 200 guys, man. I couldn't watch them all.
I tried to focus on 10 dudes who I thought could be fits for the Titans at various points. If I didn't notice him in the team period, then I probably didn't make an individual effort to like scout him outside of specific people. And like you said, yeah, there's a lot of time before the draft. We are going to get there as things start to take shape, as JT pointed out, with like free agency. And you understand, Titans just signed a left tackle to a big deal. Maybe they're not looking at left tackle in the first round anymore. Maybe it's a later round pick. Now maybe you spend more time on that left tackle that could go in the 4th or 5th round, and you're focusing more on it. But it's okay to not know. It's okay to not be okay.
Yes.
I thought you were talking about information, and because I have to do this, my brother is guilty of this all the time, and I have to tell him, like, any information that you hear right now, just sit there for a minute and ask yourself, why is this information coming out, and where could it possibly be coming from?
Bingo.
Because people are not honest. People leaked negative test scores that have been now proven to be false about CJ Stroud.
Yes.
And his whatever S2 test, the S2 cognition test last year. And there's a reason for that. There was a team, whether it's your Tennessee Titans that were hoping the Texans wouldn't trade for that pick and take him, or somebody else hoping he would fall. There is a reason that somebody wanted that information out there. And so information is very difficult to trust during the draft process because everybody has their own agenda. Media is, unfortunately, an outlet for agents, players, teams, coaches to communicate their agenda from what appears to be an unbiased
Bend that narrative, baby.
It appears unbiased. It's like, oh, well, Adam Schefter reported it. Adam Schefter was told what to report.
Who told Adam Schefter that? Right. Did he find it out on his own?
Not that there's anything wrong with that from Adam Schefter, right? Information is information, and you're telling a side of the story. Just slow down and ask yourself, why is this out there, and does it matter?
Yes, I love that you brought up the information thing because I went back and was just like going through some tweets from last year, and it's so funny how what we think we know on April 1st is different by the draft, and what we think we know in February sure as hell is different by the draft. I was listening to Dane Brugler talk about this on an athletic podcast earlier today. You're right that teams in the NFL, nothing gets out unless there's a point for it to get out, right? Things don't just accidentally leak. Everything is intentional. And Brugler was talking about the combine invites, which came out earlier, I think last week, and talking about like guys that were on there, guys that weren't on there in the process. And apparently there's a committee and they vote just yes or no. Each team has a guy representative on the committee, and they vote yes or no whether they should be at the combine based on their college tape. And even that has some gamesmanship to it. Dane was saying like there are certain teams where there's a player on a small school that they have done some extra legwork on. They're like, we kind of like this guy. We think he's a hidden gem in this draft. And they will intentionally say, we don't think this guy should come to the combine. Not because they don't think he should be there, but because they don't want the other teams to find out about him. That is in a microcosm. It is the way that things work in the NFL with information. So a very, very good point on your part as well.
It's a cynical business. And as much as you might want to think, oh, well, they'll feel good for that kid and they want to do right by that kid out of Toledo
on their team.
That should
on
be
their team.
They're like, no, regardless of how much they want that kid kid to succeed. They'd much rather it be for them in the 6th round than Pittsburgh in the 4th. And so, it's a self-serving industry, and teams, agents, players are all self-serving out there.